So on this return journey, I would like to quote very briefly one beautiful anecdote about a prince from the Umayyad dynasty and empire. He was a young man, much like us. He was distracted in dunya. He had forgotten about ulya. He had forgotten about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was so possessed by this world that he had forgotten that he shall once return back in front of his Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be accountable. This young man's name is Prince Musa al-Hashimi. He was living a very lavish lifestyle. He had constructed a massive palace for himself. And in this palace, he had a group of friends, he had a group of singers, he had a group of musicians, and wa na'udhu billah, a group of dancers. And he spent his day listening to songs, watching these performers perform. And his house was so big that he had a window, a pavilion in the backside, and a window and pavilion at the front of his house. From the back, he could see his massive gardens and orchards, which were filled with fruits, which were filled with large gardens, which were immaculate and beautiful. And from the front, he could see the bazaar, the street, and the city in Dimashq. Spending his days and nights in negligence, in forgetfulness, in the distractions of this world. One day, this young man, Musa al-Hashimi, he was drunk and he was listening to some performers and he could hear musicians, and this would go on all night until the morning came, and he slept throughout the day and spent his nights awake. However, my dear brothers, one day, while he was listening to the music of this world, he heard the melody of that world. And he stopped. And he said to his musicians, stop. He said to his performers, stop and sit down. I can hear a beautiful voice outside the palace. What is this melodious voice? What is this majestic voice? It has pierced through my heart and it's hit the target. And I have never heard such a melodious and beautiful naghma in my life. He sent his servant, go find that person who has this melodious voice and is reciting this beautiful poetry. And so his servant went outside, and there was a mosque nearby. He entered the mosque and there was one man. He was very skinny. His skin had become yellow out of hunger and thirst and illness. And he was standing in the niche of the mosque praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was reciting some verses. He said, Prince Musa wishes to see you. He's summoning you. Come. So he took that young man and he presented him in the presence of Prince Musa. Musa al-Hashimi said, oh man, I was listening to the music and watching performers. I heard a splendid voice that completely transformed my heart. Oh man, tell me, what is that voice? Whose poetry is this? And what are you talking about? And the man said, O negligent one, O forgetful one, O ghafil an dhikrillah, O one who has forgotten the remembrance of his Lord. I was reciting the words of Allah. This was not the melody of this world. This was the melody of ulya. You are busy listening to the music of this world. I am reciting the beautiful pearls of wisdom of that world. You are lost in the palace of this world, in the entertainment of this world, in the luxuries of this world, in the wealth of this world, in the accumulation of this world. O Prince, I am speaking about the palaces of that world. I am speaking about the beautiful and pure drinks of that world. The Prince says, "Oh man, why don't you recite those beautiful words? For they have pierced my heart. I want them to completely encapsulate and envelop my heart." So the young man said, "O Prince, if you wish, I shall once again recite those words." So he said, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Innal abrara lafi na'im. Ala al-ara'iki yanzurun. Ta'rifu fi wujuhihim nadratan na'im. يسقون من رحيق مختوم ختامه مسك وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون ومزاجه من تسنيم عينا يشرب بها المقربون." When he recited these beautiful words of Surah Al-Mutaffifin, the Prince said, "What a melodious recitation. Now tell me what this means." And so the young man said, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Indeed, the abrar, the virtuous people, shall remain in na'im, paradise, forever. Alal ara'iki yanzurun." O Prince, you think your beautiful sofa, your couch, your throne is majestic. Do you know how majestic the beautiful sofas Allah has made for the abrar in paradise? Ta'rifu fi wujuhihim nadratan na'im. O Prince, you think your silk dress, your barricade, your rubies on your fingers, and your silk amama and your hat is beautiful. You think this beautifies your appearance. But do you know how beautiful the abrar will be in paradise? You will see their face and they will be fresh because they are in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their faces will be radiating with the reflection of the lights of paradise. يُسْقَوْنَ مِنْ رَحِيقٍ مَخْتُومٍ. You think these drinks of this world, these wines, these mashrubat, they are delicious. But have you ever imagined how delicious the pure misk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the drink of tasneem is? It is so fragrant, so flavorsome and delicious that it emits a fragrance of misk when you smell it. And when you drink it, there is no drink on this earth as flavorful as that drink. وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ وَمِزَاجُهُ مِنْ تَسْنِيمٍ عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. O Prince, shall I tell you who these people are? By this point, the Prince is now becoming emotional. Listening to the words of his Rabb and Lord, he is slowly in his heart migrating, performing a hijrah from Dunya ila al-Ulya, towards Allah. And he said, "Tell me who these people are." And the young man said, "Al-Muqarrabun." These are those people who remain in the presence and proximity of Allah. On Fridays, they are granted the permission to sit in the presence of Allah. And depending on how excellent their rank is, according to the narrations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala among them chooses to show His beautiful reflections and attributes and beauty, and He unveils His hijab and shows them His beautiful beauty and reflections. These are the muqarraboon. Then the prince, he is now crying and tears are falling upon his cheeks, and in his head and mind and heart completely abandoned the life of ghafla of this world. He then follows this young man outside his palace. He says to his servants, take these musicians and tell them they can leave. Tell these performers that they are dismissed. All servants are dismissed from my quarters. You may sell my possessions and you can sell this palace, for someone else has bought my heart. He followed that young man into a nearby place and he sat down and he said, tell me more about Mawla. So the man spent the night telling the prince about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His beautiful names, His beautiful attributes, His beautiful promises in the Holy Quran, the beauty of paradise. But he also told him the destructive nature and the force of hellfire. And spending the whole night in the presence of this young man, the prince completely reformed himself. He performed Tawbah on the hand of that young man. And he said, oh man, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supplicate Allah Jalla wa ala on my behalf that He forgives me. Respected brothers, sisters, this is the return journey that we must perform. We came from Ulya to Dunya, and the journey back from Dunya to Ulya, this is known as at-Tawbah. We are distracted in the accumulation of a sustainable life, in building houses upon houses, cars upon cars, not only earning a respectable living, but earning a reputation. So much so that we have forgotten not only the place where we have come from, but the one who has sent us here, and the one whom we shall return to. So the young prince, after performing Tawbah and Istighfar, he committed to the journey of Hajj, to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On this journey, when he performed the tawaf, on every cycle, he would cry and say, oh Allah, I have spent a life of neglectfulness, negligence and forgetfulness. Please forgive me, O Allah. I did not know who you are. I did not know the promises you have given the Abrar. I did not know the beautiful stations you have given in Jannatul Na'im. Forgive me, Allah, for I was neglectful. And he completed his 7 cycles, and upon his 7th cycle, in a station and at the rank of being a ta'ib, the one who had completed his tawbah in the presence of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took his soul and transferred him from dunya towards ulya in his own presence.